Hey there, I'm Emily from Grad Student Finances. This video is a follow-up to a post I wrote 2 weeks ago called The Best Kind of Frugality for a Busy Grad Student. This week I'm addressing how to reduce one of your largest fixed expenses, transportation. Fair warning, I'm going to hate on cars for a while now. If you love cars or they're your hobby or whatever and you can easily afford that, this video is not for you. I'm speaking to people who need transportation from home to campus or around town or whatever, and don't care much about how that happens as long as it's not too uncomfortable, too time consuming, or too expensive. This video is for people looking to reduce their spending on transportation. First things first, owning your own car is an incredibly expensive endeavor. Even when it's inexpensive, it's expensive relative to a grad student stipend. It's easy to forget about all the expenses associated with car ownership because they're either fixed expenses, which means they don't easily rise to our level of attention, or they're irregular expenses, which means we're never quite sure in what amount or when they'll pop up. Car expenses include the cost of the vehicle upon purchase, financing for the vehicle, if any, registration fees, inspection fees, taxes, insurance, gas, parking, maintenance, and repairs. Sometimes owning a car is a necessity and sometimes it's not. If you're looking for ways to reduce your spending on transportation and a car is not a necessity in your city, I strongly encourage you to consider living car-free. Even if you decide that a car is necessary, there are ways to keep a lid on your expenses. First, I'll address transportation when you're living without a car, and then I'll address how to be frugal when you do own a car. Living car-free takes planning and coordination, but is almost certainly less expensive than owning your own car. What are all the different ways you can get around in your city without a car? Public transportation, like buses, trains, and subways, provided by your university and/or the city. Human-powered modes of transit, like walking, bicycling, or skateboarding. And carpooling, car sharing, and ride sharing. Your university might even provide free or subsidized transportation, like a campus bus system or yearly passes on the public transportation. Where you live becomes even more important when you're car-free. Easy access to campus is key, whether that's by proximity or convenient transportation routes. Also consider other places around your city that you may want to get to, such as for shopping, entertainment, or socializing. If you only need occasional use of a car, you'll have the option of renting a car, subscribing to a car sharing service, using a ride sharing service or a taxi, or bumming a ride. What are your transportation costs when you live car-free? Your only fixed or background costs are likely to be your subscriptions, if you have any, like to a car sharing service or a pass on public transit. You'll also have some variable costs, like if you pay for public transit by usage or use a ride-sharing service. If you bicycle, you'll have the costs of buying and maintaining the bike, but that's not in the same league as owning a car. Of course, if you choose to ride share every single day, that cost may be greater than owning your own car, but in all likelihood, that will only be an occasional expense for you. I've listed all the various costs you might have, but realistically, you'll probably stick to a couple modes of transit. If you deem that owning a car is a necessity, there are two approaches to being frugal with your transportation. The first is to own an inexpensive car, and the second is to drive it very minimally. The first and probably most important decision to make is what car to own and how to pay for it, with cash or with a loan. Here's how to be frugal with your choice of vehicle. 1. Buy a used car, preferably one that's several years old. 2. Make sure the car is both inexpensive and reliable, though exactly how inexpensive is up to you. 3. Pay cash. When you follow all of those tips, you'll have a low purchase price on the vehicle, zero financing costs, low taxes, low insurance, and low maintenance costs. If you already own a car, you're not stuck in that decision. You do have the option of getting rid of that car to either live car-free or buy a less expensive car. I know that's a tough decision to make and carry out, but it's also tough to keep paying through the nose for more car than you need. Think about how much cash flow you could free up if you downsized. Another way to lessen the burden of your car on your monthly budget is to drive less. Driving less means less money spent on gas, parking, insurance, maintenance, less wear and tear on the car. You're less likely to be hit with a moving violation and pay for a ticket. You're less likely to get into an accident and have to pay for repairs. You can drive less by choosing to live car-free part-time, such as by commuting by bicycle or using public transit. You might be able to work from home part-time. You could set up a carpool with a neighbor to campus and split the cost of gas and parking. You can combine trips out of your home for route efficiency. When I started grad school, I really wanted to live car-free, but my city was such that I felt that a car was a necessity. So I did the next best thing and bought a 6-year-old Toyota Echo for $4,500. One not so great reality was that I couldn't pay cash for the car, so I had to take out a small loan, which I paid off over 2 years. I was very happy with my choice of car. I probably spent a couple $1,000s in maintenance and repair costs over the 6 years that I owned the car, and ultimately sold it for a couple $1,000s. My insurance costs were also quite low, as the car was so inexpensive to begin with, and I also put less than 10,000 miles a year on it. Another good transportation decision was to become a one-car family after my husband and I got married. We were both grad students, so at first we continued commuting separately to campus because we didn't want to change our routines. But eventually we overcame that inertia and started carpooling together. We moved closer to campus and onto a direct bus route, so public transit became our backup option. By going from 2 cars to one, we reduced our spending on insurance, parking, taxes, registration, and gas. By the time I finished grad school, the city had changed considerably, and living car-free was a viable option. If I were starting grad school there now, I would definitely give living car-free a shot. Check back next week for our third and final installment in this series, in which we discuss food spending.